How do we match? You just need like a silver chain.
I know. Let's get it out.
Awesome, man. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. It's a little warm here in Scottsdale, but the weather's cooling off here. I can't complain. How about you?
I'm good. I'm spending a couple days in New York City, so I don't have my normal background or anything like that here. So I'm excited to out around the city a little bit later today. So if anybody else that's watching is in New York City today, shoot me a message. We can grab coffee, grab a drink, whatever that looks like. But today I'm hanging out with Jeremy Holden in beautiful Scottsdale, Arizona. And Jeremy, you have the recent accolade of multiple times being called Bill Faith's number one best real estate agent he has ever spoken to is in his entire life. Even better than me, and I'm absolutely, as always, happy to pass the torch to somebody else at Savvy, as long as they're not outside of Savvy. So congratulations on that. But tell the crowd, tell everybody a little bit about yourself, little starter tidbits on your market, why you like doing short-term rentals. Just give us the rundown, give us the story.
Thanks, Tyler. So in 2020, when the world shut down, I was just looking to basically like get into real estate investing. I was on the East Coast and found that like a lot of the markets on the East Coast were either too expensive for me, or were just like heavily regulated. And I wanted to be in a big urban center. What's kind of crazy is I looked up Warren Buffett's stock portfolio at that time, and the only real estate holding he had was actually a REIT in Phoenix. So I said, hey, let me just move to Phoenix, sight unseen. I did that. That was during a low interest rate environment. So as rates went up, I said, how can I actually get into investing and make things pencil? And the only route was short-term rentals. I found that like the revenue that we could achieve in Phoenix was going to be able to put me in a spot where instead of looking at like $200 or $300 a month in cash flow on a long-term rental, I was actually looking at $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 a month in cash flow. So I think a lot of it just came from the fact that I was really well versed in real estate, just read all the books, read all the podcasts, and then from there just use my tool belt as an investor, say, hey, how can we get creative? And what's cool about the short-term rental industry out here is that you're also in a major urban center, which I thought was really great from an appreciation standpoint. If we look at like New York, LA, Chicago, Miami, there's a lot of restrictions and the prices are also super high. So what's really neat about Phoenix is that you can be in one of the fastest growing economies in the country and also do short-term rentals. So the what it really looks like in our market is big group trips. You know, everybody thinks about Scottsdale, and it's kind of like the younger sister of Nashville. If you don't go to Nashville for a bachelorette party or to go golfing, like you're coming to Scottsdale.
Yeah, totally makes sense. How are Scottsdale and Phoenix different? And when you say Phoenix, are you including the Scottsdale market? Are they two separate markets? Tell me a little bit there.
I think Scottsdale is like our cornerstone blue chip, and I'd say for the most part, that's just going to be a little bit more expensive in price, but that's where everybody wants to come and stay. So for the most part, if you don't know anything about my area, Scottsdale is where you have all the bachelor and bachelorette parties going. You have all the famous golf courses. That's where we have TPC Scottsdale, which is the number one golf tournament in the country. You have Bear Jackson, which is the car show. So you have all these major events always coming to Scottsdale. But what's really cool is that if I talk about Phoenix, we have Phoenix, Peoria, Glendale, Mesa, Gilbert, Chandler, Tempe. You have all these auxiliary markets around it that also are fantastic. So Scottsdale is a little bit higher of a price point, and that's where I work with clients to make it work at every price point. We can go and find like a $3 million mansion in Scottsdale and make that work fantastically on Airbnb, but not everybody has $3 million. So if we have
Yeah.
a budget of 500K, we can make that work in Glendale, Peoria, or Mesa. And what's fantastic about it is if you look up MLB spring training map, spring Scottsdale only has two spring training stadiums. If you go on the west side of town, we have six or seven, and if you go on the east side of town, we have three or four. So every single year, you have all these teams coming between beginning of February all the way to the end of March. You also have a really interesting dynamic where a lot of folks' parents have retired, and Scottsdale is too expensive for a lot of people. So what happens is a lot of people's parents have retired in the surrounding areas that I just mentioned. So if you think about the dynamic is we want to have Thanksgiving just like we did when we were kids. But mom and dad are now in Gilbert, Arizona. Why don't we go find like a big five bed, three bath, bring everybody to have a nostalgic Christmas or nostalgic Thanksgiving? So we have this really interesting mix of all these events that are happening all the time, like the spring trainings, the golf tournaments, the bachelor and bachelorette parties, but you also have the dynamic of just family. We're one of the biggest states in the country for retirees, which actually lends it really really healthy short-term rental market for people just coming to visit their family.
That's awesome. What, so why do you think Phoenix, Scottsdale, the whole area, why does it belong on every short-term rental investor's radar?
We're one of those markets that's a drive-in and a fly-in market, which is fantastic. And I think if we're going to define those, a fly-in market is a market where it's like a New York, it's in LA, where most
Yeah.
people are flying in, right? It could also be like a destination, which could be like a Jamaica or Cancun, where you're flying in. Those are the typical markets where folks, for the most part, um, when there's an economic downturn, they're not usually doing that. Now, when we have a downturn, most folks are just going into the old Volkswagen, the old station wagon, putting everybody into the minivan, and you're just driving. What are some examples of places like that? That's going to be the Grand Canyon. That's going to be Sedona. That's going to be like coming to Scottsdale. That's going to be like going to
Mhm.
Tucson. And we're in a very interesting part of the country where we have New Mexico, then we have Colorado, then we have Nevada, and then we also have California, which are all a short drive away. So what's really great is that if you're looking for something that's going to be a little bit more recession proof, even when the world shut down in 2020, people were still coming here because they were just packing up the minivan and coming here. The next thing is that in terms of regulation, we have some of the lowest regulation in the country for short-term rentals. In
Yep.
2017, Arizona's Supreme Court came out with a statute that basically said that private landowners can do exactly what private landowners can do within their zoning. So as long as you're not hosting weddings, doing commercial events, selling tickets, you can do whatever you want on your property as long as it's residential, and Airbnb falls in that residential. The only caveat is no HOAs. So what's really great is that we're in a place where we create billions of dollars worth of economic activity, and the legislator sees that. So we aren't really seeing anything in the pipeline that's going to create any headwinds for short-term rental investors. And then the last thing is if we just look at the underlying real estate, we have really strong appreciation here, and I think that's what everybody's looking for. We're looking for our tax savings. We're looking for low regulation where we can get our cash flow from the short-term rental, but we're also looking for appreciation. TSMC is the biggest chip manufacturer in the world. TSMC is
Hmm.
Taiwanese semiconductor manufacturer. They make the chips for NVIDIA, Apple, all the big companies. They've already invested over $600 billion into creating their plant in North Phoenix, and that's only expanding with like the CHIP Act. So it's
Yeah.
really great. We're seeing so much our asset prices rise, which is also really great for the underlying asset. The last thing I'll say is a lot of folks come to us and say, hey, we really want to invest because of those reasons, but taxes is there too. We also have some of the cheapest land in the country just because we're not surrounded by any water. So our land allocation in Maricopa County is 20%. So if we're looking at $1 million property in Scottsdale, we have about $800,000 that we can work with after we take out the land, which is really an awesome sweet spot where if you are looking at tax savings, you're looking at a whole bunch of deductions on top of all the other cash flow and appreciation I just discussed.
Yeah, makes sense. And one thing I always tell people, especially short-term rental investors, is stop reinventing the wheel. Invest where other people are investing, right? Like if you're seeing companies pour in billions of dollars, if you're seeing business come to the area, all of the other things follow, right? Real estate prices follow. Primary homeowners move in. Who comes to visit primary homeowners? Their family. They come to town. They come visit. It's a reason for people to vacation, right? And and even these ancillary like Sedona, Scottsdale, like these drive to destinations from Phoenix, if more people move into Phoenix, where are they going to drive to, right? Where are they going to go hang out? Where are they going to go spend some of their tourism dollars? We know they're going to go to the beach, they're going to fly to Florida, but they're also going to drive to these closer destinations. So when you see like primary home ownership rising in an area, companies are investing, building manufacturing plants, building campuses, like that's happening a lot in North Carolina too, and it's one reason I love this state so much. And I always tell people like stop reinventing the wheel. Just invest where everybody else is investing. Like they're investing their dollars there. It's probably a pretty safe bet that they've done a lot of research and you don't have to reinvent that wheel. Just follow them, right? Like just follow them and you can be really successful with that. It sounds like that's what's happening in Phoenix and the entire greater Phoenix area.
Absolutely. We also have some like telltale signs, and you can do that in any state. But what I think are some easy telltale signs is that investors go to the Department of Tourism's website. If a state is really doing well with short-term rentals, they're going to highlight and they usually leave some breadcrumbs. So for our state, what I think is the biggest telltale sign is if you look at Sky Harbor, which is our biggest airport, we're going to have a new terminal. We're going to have Terminal 5. The only reason an airport that is for profit to open up a new terminal is because they are exceeding travel demand. So right now, Sky Harbor sees about 40 million people go through it. They're expecting by 2050 to get that number up to 90 million. And they're also adding a new route. So what's great about the new manufacturing plant is that 88% of all travel to Phoenix through the airport is domestic. So you have this you had all this news in the media saying that because of the Canadian dollar, and then also just because of like any sort of like politics, that Canadian travel was down, and that was going to affect Arizona's economy. The thing is, it didn't do anything. We actually saw ADRs go up, we saw occupancy go up, we saw revenue rise, and what's fantastic is 88% of folks are here domestically. So we're really recession proof to like international travel. The thing that is great though is because of the factory, they actually opened up two trade routes. It's basically through Starlink and then Taipei, where we actually now have a 24-hour route that basically gets you over to Asia. Now, that's not that big of a deal because it's only two routes, but if you look at the fact that we're opening up a new terminal and then we have this major new manufacturing plant, there's going to be so many people that come here for business, and then they're going to say to their friends, have you ever been to Sedona? It's this crazy
Yeah.
place where there's a vortex. Or have you been to Scottsdale where there's these crazy cowboy rodeos? Like, we don't have stuff like that over there. Let's go check it out. Then if you look at Mesa Gateway, which people never know about, Mesa Gateway
Yeah.
is this little ancillary airport, which is basically there to basically alleviate it's basically there to alleviate any like traffic from Sky Harbor. What's amazing is that Allegiant is their biggest airline, and Allegiant earlier this year actually said that we're actually going to cut all of our flights. Like, we're actually going to pull back. We're the only airport in the country where they actually expanded, and they actually added 13 nonstop routes this
Wow.
past month. They saw 2 million visitors go through their airport this past year, which is a 25% increase. And that's the really cool thing about that, is that it's outside of Scottsdale. So if you're looking for a market that's a little bit more budget friendly, that's outside of Scottsdale, Mesa Gateway Airport is telling us that people are going to that airport regionally, and that's where they're staying, is in that part of town. So I think if you go to your Department of Tourism, if you go to your local like whatever market you're looking into their specific airline, their public reports, it'll tell you a lot of telltale signs on whether or not the hospitality and tourism industry, whether it's booming or it's not. And here it's absolutely booming.
Yeah, they've definitely got more like research dollars than we have, right? So just follow what they're doing, you know? So I always like to check, like, because, a lot of people, I think, especially in the short-term rental industry, can always just focus on like the positive, positive, positive. What are some misconceptions that people have about investing in Phoenix, greater Phoenix area, and what do people overlook? Like, what are the mistakes that they make?
I think the biggest thing is that we're in a very competitive landscape. So when a lot of folks that are either new or when they are already seasoned short-term rental investors and they're invested in other ancillary markets, the competition here is quite high. So your investment dollars need to be higher and to make sure that your amenities are tip top. Usually we need to make sure that we have heated pools, hot tubs, putting greens, really great design. I mean, it's very similar to Asheville, Tyler, in the market that you operated, where
Hmm.
you guys just did a house that has like a laser tag room. That's the type of stuff that we would have here in Scottsdale.
Yeah.
Um, Even if you're not in Scottsdale, competition's rising. So if you're in Scottsdale, you need to have a very large budget to make sure that you're pouring into the property. If you're outside of Scottsdale, there's less competition, but folks are catching on. So you still need to make sure you have a good budget to make sure that your property stands out. We say it at our company, Tyler. There's a reason why like some houses aren't succeeding. It's because they're boring houses. If you look at a
Yeah.
house and there's a lot of white walls and there's a lot of like mundane furniture, I mean, it's not going to work. Like if you really are just looking for tax purposes, no problem, we can make it work. But we're not here just for tax purposes. We want to make sure that this is a sustainable thing where we can stack cash flow on top of each other, do it every single year. So I think that's the biggest thing, is that due to the level of competition, we need to make sure that we're getting that 5 or 10% top property, which is attainable. We have that whole team here of designers, installers, pool people, contractors. Even with Go Live, right? We have all the top property managers in town at our disposal in our network here. Um, we have to make sure that those expectations are set. And then the second thing really has to do with just like neighbor relations. We have a lot of short-term rentals in town, and I think if you go online, a lot of people, do complain about short-term rentals, but that's just Facebook. If you look in reality, I'm best friends with all of my neighbors at all 9 of our properties. One of my neighbor's sons actually takes out our garbage because he was looking for a few extra bucks over the summer. One of my
Hmm.
other neighbors, we actually got invited to their birthday parties. So I think part of it has to do with just having the right expectations, and the other is just be a good person and go shake your neighbor's hand. I think the biggest thing in a classic short-term rental market is, anytime you're new in a neighborhood, and you introduce yourself to the neighbors, they usually are going to say, "We're not too happy that there's short-term rentals. We all know each other. We're a pretty close-knit community here." And then I always respond, at some point you were the new kid on the block and you had to prove to everybody else that you were a great person. And all I can do is let you know that we're responsible hosts, our property management team is tip top, and that the folks here are going to be just like you. They're just family folk. But all I have is my words. Let me deliver on that. And then I always ask them, when you stay at a short term rental, how do you utilize it? They say, well, we usually have some beer, we usually have some margaritas, we're usually watching SEC football on Saturday. We'll usually watch like our local football team on Sunday, and then we kick back at the pool, and then we're all passed out by 10 p.m. I said, great. That's exactly how we're going to be. Those are exactly how our guests are going to be too. So I think just setting expectations on the investment side and then also the operation side is the biggest thing to combat misnomers.
Yeah, totally makes sense. Okay, awesome. So I guess, we talked a little bit about the different submarkets. How should an investor think about them? Like, it's such a huge market. So when you think about Tempe and Mesa and Scottsdale and Phoenix, like, where should somebody start? Is it based on their budget? Is it based on the property type that they're looking for or the revenue numbers, lifestyle asset? Like, where should people start? And are there any particular areas that you're like more excited about than others personally?
Awesome. Absolutely, Tyler. I think if you're looking specifically from like a business perspective, we would just go specifically on the numbers, and then from there, we would just look for like the highest gross return on investment. Gross return on investment, right, is your total revenue before any expenses divided by the purchase price. But we do live in a really trendy place. Like Scottsdale is the highest growing city in the country for millionaires. So let's say you are a high income earner and you really do love Scottsdale. I mean, at that point, we're really looking to find a match between like what can get you a good return where the property will pay for itself while also having that luxury feel that you're looking for. So if we're looking specifically at a lifestyle asset that also is going to bring you some money, we're going to go to Scottsdale all day long. In Scottsdale, we're going to look anywhere between $1 million and $3 million and make it work. Now, if we're like location agnostic, I think we should be looking
Mhm.
at Mesa. I think we should look at Peoria, and we should be looking at Glendale. If we look at the Peoria and Glendale, which is on the west side of town, that is where State Farm Stadium is, which is where the Cardinals play, where we have all of our super concerts. Like I'm going to the Zach Bryan concert there next month, and it's awesome because everybody from out of town's coming to it as well. So all the Airbnbs,
Yeah.
like we've houses on that side of town that are getting booked. What's really cool too is Arizona's opening up its first roller coaster park over there. It's by Mattel, the game company. So you're gonna have Barbie World, Hot Wheels World, and then also Thomas
That's
the Train.
awesome. That's going to be huge.
It's going to be awesome. I don't think it's going to bring much out of state travel, but let's say you live in Prescott. Let's say you live in Payson or Tucson. You're absolutely going to take the kids for 3 or 4 days to come stay in Glendale or Peoria to have a staycation, to go see a Cardinals game, to also go to the theme park. What's also really cool about that part of town is that TKO Sports, which owns WWE, UFC, and then also professional bull riding, just entered in its first statewide contract. So that area is contracted for 3 years, and we're having our first La Noche night, which is a Mexican Heritage Night for UFC
Yep.
this September. Then we're gonna have WWE Rumble in February, and then PBR is gonna do their championship, their championships for 3 days from May 20th to 23rd in Glendale. So what's really great is that it's a really emerging market right now where you can get a house between like under $650,000, a really nice property that can cash flow over $100,000, and you're going to see more and more growth. Like there's a mall over there called the Metro Center Mall that they just demolished. It's going to
Okay.
be they're pumping $850 million in there. So not only is the tourism there, but we also are going to see appreciations. Amcor is one of the biggest semiconductor manufacturers in the world. They just opened up a $7 billion factory. Now, if we look on the other side of town for Mesa, what's really great about Mesa is you have Falcon Field Airport, and then you also have Mesa Gateway, but it's also next door neighbors to Tempe. Tempe has small lots. Nobody wants a small lot on their vacation. You want to go hang out by the pool, have a margarita, and go relax in an estate.
Yeah, you
Mesa
need the amenities, right? Especially in those markets.
Exactly. Mesa has those amenities. I got under contract for a personal property today. It's 15,000 square foot lot for 735. 6 beds, 3 baths, gonna be a cowboy
Dude,
house.
congrats.
Thank you, sir. We have a concrete pad on the side that we're going to turn into a luxury pickleball court. We have another concrete pad that we're going to turn into a luxury fire pit area. We're going to turf the whole yard to look like Cancun, and then we have an outdoor kitchen space that we're going to theme to make it look like a really fun eatery. Now, the point I make is that for 735 and other parts of the East Valley, you really can't find that. But what's amazing though is Arizona Athletic Complex is on this part of town. That is the
Mhm.
premier sports complex for youth sports in the Southwest. Last year they saw 2.8 million visitors, and
It's
we never
crazy.
really
And
connected the dots.
Bradenton is like that, right? Like in Florida, you've got that, and it drives so many travelers. It always stuns. Like I think it's so interesting. It's not just tourists. It's not just people going on vacation. Like there are so many reasons why people travel, and I think that is one thing that people need to get right in their mind about investing in short-term rentals. Like they can't just think like, oh, I'm building this for people coming on vacation here, because there are so many other reasons, and I think there's a lot of success that is out there to be had by not just focusing straight up on vacation. So I love what you're saying right now. Sorry to interrupt.
No,
Keep
I
going.
agree. And I think that's why we partner with, like, that's why you partner with a savvy agent because we know all these weird crook, like, nooks in the market. Like, who would know about Arizona Sports Complex or Mesa Gateway? Tyler, Mesa Gateway just opened their first direct route to Asheville. Like, I saw that today. The thing is, though, otherwise you'd be flying to Sky Harbor, and you would like folks wouldn't know this unless you're partnered with a savvy agent that's going to give you this really finite, specific information. What else is going on over there? You have the Salt River. The Salt River sees over 1 million people a year that float. It's this river that flows down from the Roosevelt Lake. And what's really awesome about it is you have mountain views. It looks like the Nile River, and there are wild horses just frolicking all the way through it.
That's awesome.
So
I had no
it's
idea.
it's amazing. It's one of the only places in the country you still have wild horse access like that in a metro. And so what people do is they stay at our houses all year round, and they say, we used to go to ASU, and I actually stayed here, but we have our 5 year reunion, 10 year reunion. Everybody's gonna come to Phoenix or Mesa because we
Hmm.
want to float on the Salt River like we did in college. My house is too small. We want to stay at your place. What's also really cool is wedding venues. Mesa, Gilbert, Chandler, Tempe has a ton of wedding venues. There's like at least like 100 of them, and it's a lot
Hmm.
cheaper than Scottsdale or Sedona. So what people do is they'll book a wedding in Mesa, for instance, and the wedding venue only lets you on site 2 hours before the start. For most of the
Okay.
ladies, that is not enough time for them to do their hair, their makeup, to get ready. So we consistently have wedding parties that basically said, hey, all the bridesmaids and all the groomsmen are going to stay at the house just so they can get ready, and we'll book you guys for 3 or 4 days so we can celebrate. So you have all these little micro niches outside of just like, hey, here's Scottsdale. I would suggest Scottsdale again for somebody that really wants a lifestyle asset, that really wants to be in luxury or wants to cater to that luxury crowd because those dollars are there. Like I have a $2 million property right now that can gross over $450,000 with the right design. Then that's not for everybody. Like I have a
That sounds
seven
like somebody should probably reach out to you quickly that's got a budget like that.
currently an under achieving STR that has a pickleball court, has a heated pool, has a casita, has a mini putt, has a movie theater. It's just not designed properly. It's a really great deal. But we also have properties at the six or $700,000 range right now that are achieving return on investments of 20 to 25%. Like the revenue on those deals are about $150,000. So we can make it work in different parts of the market. There's different niches with those demands. It's really just a matter of us buying like, the right bedroom bathroom mix.
That's awesome. Yeah, amazing. I mean, it sounds like you got a lot going on there. Is there a particular type of property? I think I know what the answer is to this, but is there like a particular type of property that does better than others? Like condos, single family, large bedroom, small bedroom counts? What does that look like?
We're looking at large bedroom counts. If you look at the dynamic of like right now, three, twos, and ones are 75% of our market. They all compete with each other. The barrier to entry is super low. And the switching cost between being a three, two, or one versus a hotel is super low. Like it's actually cheaper for folks to just go to a hotel at that point. They don't have to deal with cleanings. They don't have to deal with the host. You make your money in Phoenix specifically having four, five, six, seven, eight bedroom houses. The psychology of the folks coming are, hey, the girls are coming for a bachelor party, a bachelorette party. The guys are coming for a golf trip. Hey, we all want to see TPC Scottsdale. Hey, we want to go to the car show. Hey, we're coming for a family trip. Like they're all big group dynamics. So you really
Yeah.
get that economies of scale. People want to enjoy the backyard. What's really interesting though is that there is a specific niche for some of our more risk averse investors where you actually can buy a triplex or a fourplex. What's really great
Oh,
is
so
most condo associations, most HOAs say no short-term rentals. But the loophole is if you buy your own fourplex, you buy your own eightplex, you are your
Yeah.
own association. So I found a lot of success in Midtown Phoenix, where you have 7 or 8 hospitals. It's 5 minutes from downtown's conference center, and you also are 10 minutes from the airport, where we actually can make 3 units and up at around $1 million cash flow really, really well. It's obviously a different model where it's more so about business travelers, travel nurses, and folks going in and out of the airport. But
Mhm.
that is a really good option for folks that aren't fully sold on short-term rental and would like to have backup options.
Okay, that's awesome. And I know we've harped a lot on amenities, so is there anything else you need to say on amenities? I mean, I know that it's like an amenity arms race there. Anything else we need to talk about when it comes to that? Because I know how important it is there. So I just want people to really, really understand, like, what do they need to do? How much do they need to invest? Can they get away with little amounts? If so, is there a different market for that? Or do they really just have to kind of go balls to the wall now?
In Scottsdale, you have to go balls to the wall. We're looking at pickleball courts. We're looking at cold plunges. We're looking at saunas. We're looking at potential red light therapy in the house. You probably want to have a pickleball court. You need to have a heated pool. You probably want an outdoor kitchen. Now, if you're outside of Scottsdale, you don't have to go crazy, but you absolutely have to have a heated pool. We had some houses in our portfolio that didn't have heated pools, and we'd probably get 60 or 70 inquiries per year asking, is the pool heated? We'd say no. We actually have a hot tub, a luxurious hot tub, and they wouldn't book. The hot tub in my market is more so something that if you're between two houses, they'll end up just picking it because you have the hot tub. It gets you
Yeah.
occupancy. It doesn't get you a booking. Now, if we're looking specifically at the heated pool, that is going to be a make or break. If it, even though Scottsdale and Phoenix has like the reputation of being very hot, in the winter it's the desert. It gets to 60 in the morning and 30 at night. The nighttime temperature is where your pool's going to sit. That means your pool's at like 30, 40 degrees. So you do need to have a pool heater, or else folks aren't going to be able to enjoy your house. So outside of Scottsdale, heated pool, a nice mural, a nice backyard work. In Scottsdale, you really do need to be catering to either the bachelor bachelorette crowds with all the fun stuff at the house, or it's going to be the hey, I'm really into health and wellness, and you need to have like those health and wellness amenities.
Okay, got it. Yeah, it's definitely like Asheville is just going so crazy with amenities. Even the smaller places, like I recommend people do amenities, and it works. The numbers are still working. I guess that's one thing to talk about is like when you add amenities and things like that there, does that add to the value of the house? Are you guys seeing bigger appraisals there? I know of a particular instance in Scottsdale where somebody's house did appraise for a whole lot more than they bought it and put into it. Is that a possibility there, kind of like it is in some other markets? The
Absolutely.
value add potential?
Absolutely. I think that there's ways to do that. I think there's demand. I think there's ways to increase your equity position in the house through adding amenities, but I think there's also ways to destroy it. I think a lot of folks think that they could just convert a garage willy-nilly, and you need to make sure you're doing it properly. Like let's say you're converting a garage to add some bedrooms, and that's an extra 400 or 500 square feet. I mean, extra 400 or 500 square feet is going to add a ton of value to the appraisal. The thing is, though, is if it wasn't done properly, that's where you've issues. So I'd say, like, as long as things are done properly from a value add perspective, that's important. Also, with backyards here, everybody wants a nice backyard, and appraisers jaw drop when they have a nice backyard. So I bought a house for 515 in 2020 when interest rates were like 9.5%, and I refinanced it about a year later, and it came up to 650. And the reason being was that we added in a 800 square foot deck, we added in turf, we added in all these amenities to the property. So I think if you invest in Arizona specifically in upgrading your backyard, maybe adding square footage in a tasteful way. I wouldn't say like taking a carport and chopping that up into a room makes sense, but maybe if you have a nice garage and it's done properly, you absolutely can add value in a way that makes sense.
Awesome. What about seasonality? How does that look? Is it year round? Is it just certain seasons? What does that look like? And is that different by the different, metro areas as well, or is it kind of the whole area?
Scottsdale and Phoenix's market, I would say the best comparison is ski season. So let's say Tyler and Jeremy were starting Tyler and Jeremy's ski company, and we were selling ski merchandise. We would probably think about starting our ski business right now. People are probably going to start buying ski jackets and coats and pants and helmets in the next month or so to get ready for ski season.
Hmm.
So if we think about that with our market, busy season really starts Thanksgiving. The weather cools down to about 75 degrees. Thanksgiving, you're seeing average daily rates over $1,000 a night, and then that extends all the way to about January. Once January hits, it happens all over the country. There's a little bit of a hangover because everybody's traveled so much for the holidays, but then it picks back up after MLK Day, and then that goes all the way till about Memorial Day. Once you hit Memorial Day, we have a shoulder season, and then that in June, people still come, but it starts getting hot. It does slow down in July, August, and September. And I always tell folks, if you grossed $30,000 or $40,000 in March, I sure hope that you didn't take that to the casino and that you saved some money to float you during slow season. But if you are looking in a place like Mesa or Peoria, what's really great is those two markets have easy access to the lakes and the
Hmm.
river that I was talking about. So what's great is that you do have some recession proofing due to the lake access, due to the river access, and then also the kids sports. Kids sports never stops. We just had the Little League World Series for Arizona stay at all of our houses, and that was basically for 4 weeks in June. What's really great
Wow.
too is a lot of our houses in slow season will actually see this time of year. Actually, folks stay for anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks because they'll be in solar sales, they'll be in construction, and they say, hey, we just need a place for our teams to work in the summer. A lot of the construction industry and people making upgrades to their commercial facilities will do it in the summer when it's hot, when there's less traffic, and there actually is a pretty big demand for big Airbnbs because they need to house a team of like 10 or 15 pretty fast. So we do have regular seasonality where when it's cool here in the spring, people are coming. But even though the summer slows down, if you buy the right asset in the right part of town, you'll be just fine.
Awesome. So, what do you think is people are always looking for this, especially during cost seg season. Are there still opportunities like right now to find really strong short-term rental deals? And if so, what are they?
Right now, I have a list of anywhere from 15 to 25 really strong short-term rental deals. They range in prices as low as
A gold mine.
$400,000, and we can get as crazy as up to like $3-4 million. Um, because cost tag season's coming up, a lot of folks, especially on the West Coast, have expressed interest in Phoenix. A majority of the volume here has been people in tech in Seattle, people in tech in Northern California, and then people in tech in Southern California. I always say to folks to get a property up and running before Thanksgiving at this time of year requires you to purchase right now. It's more ideal to get your housing search started in June, but everybody meets with their CPA at the end of Q2, at the beginning of Q3. So right now we're seeing a lot of folks from that part of the West Coast invest. Now, why are they investing here? It's a lot easier of a drive to go on an hour and a half flight to Scottsdale from San Francisco than it is to go all the way across the country to one of those markets. So the ease of access makes it easy. Also, in terms of the West Coast, most folks on the West Coast they're not as regulars to Florida. You know, if they want to go to a beach, they have the beach, or they're going to Mexico. So a lot of their domestic travel actually is to either Vegas or Scottsdale, and most of them end up choosing Scottsdale. So if we are looking from a cost segregation perspective, where there's a ton of opportunity, we're just going to want to get that up and running. We're going to want to get the property closed sometime in October and get you up and running in Thanksgiving. Our service providers have a turnaround time of anywhere from 30 to 60 days, depending on the scope of work. And because of our low land allocation, CPAs love their clients buying here.
Yeah, totally makes sense. Okay, I love that. So what do you think is like the biggest mistake when people are analyzing properties in the area? What do people assume and then they go through, they follow that through and make that mistake, and then you're like, if you get a hold of them later, like, oh my God, if you would have just talked to me first, I would have solved this for you. What is that thing?
The biggest thing is working with a realtor that doesn't have any short-term rentals. I have a lot of folks so I'm the lead educator at our local real estate investment association for short-term rentals, and I have probably 5 or 10 folks that come in every single time that say that they bought a short-term rental and it's not performing in years 2, 3, and 4, and that because they did the cost segregation study, they're stuck with a underperforming property because they don't want the IRS to recapture the taxes. For those who aren't following, let's say you take $1 million property and let's say you write off $300,000 in year one. So now it looks like on paper the house is worth $700,000. Let's say it's underperforming short-term rental. You say to your partner, "Wow, this is really killing us. We can't afford this. Every month we're losing $2, $3,000." Let's say you decide to sell it. Let's say you sold it for the same amount, $1 million. And you're saying, oh, great, we broke even. To the IRS, it looks like you just made $300,000. So all the
Yep.
tax savings that you thought you had are actually getting getting reversed. They're getting recaptured. And then on top of that, you're having to pay broker fees and then either having to do a 1031 exchange or not. So what ends up happening is I tell folks, like, if you just came to Savvy at the start, we would have just shown you the shortcut, which is just the data, to say here's what works in our market. This is what doesn't work, and this is how we're going to make sure that the tax savings is just a cherry on top. That's my philosophy, that we make investment decisions because they're good investment decisions, and if as a result we get tax savings, that's great. If we go into investing in Phoenix with a willy-nilly realtor and assuming that we're going to get tax savings, you will get your tax savings. Don't get me wrong, but there's a likelihood that you will come to my meeting crying that you bought the wrong property and it's not working out. I will also say that we have a budget that it's very detailed. It's in our pro forma, the Savvy branded pro forma, which if anybody isn't using, they should be absolutely using. Um, what is amazing is that our pro forma will give you an idea of like how much you can expect to spend, including on amenities. Now,
Yep.
if we are projecting to spend, let's say, $50,000 on design, amenities, and furniture, and then we buy the property and we don't do that, there's going to be a reason why a property is underperforming. So I always say to folks like, hey, like if you're aligned with your investment team that you're going to spend the money on a heated pool and on a pickleball court and so on and so forth, you know, you really need to go through with that because that's what the comps are based off of. We comp properties to say that we're looking at apples to apples. Like if you have a property that has a pickleball court and a heated pool, and then you decide that you don't want to install those because it was too expensive, you're really comparing apples to oranges at that point. So I think the two things are setting expectations on how you're going to acquire the property from a cash flow perspective to protect your
Yep.
taxes. And then the second is going to be making sure that you just follow through with your execution, that you're actually going to put in the amenities that you agree to.
Yeah. It's crazy the number of people that have come to me to sell their property that they didn't buy with me. And they expect me to be able to like wave a magic wand, and because I have all these short-term rental buyers, I'm just going to be able to sell it. It is more difficult than that. Now, I can do a better job than an agent that doesn't know short-term rentals, but I can't fix the mistakes that you made in the past, right? Like if you
Mhm.
bought wrong, if you invested in amenities wrong, if you didn't design the place the right way, if you didn't manage it the right way and get the sort of revenue that you needed, it's going to be more difficult. As much as I wish I was, a wizard, I'm not, and I can just do the best that I can do with the resources I have. Now, the resources we have at Savvy definitely are more than a normal short-term rental agent is going to have, and I really love that you threw out the pro forma. I put a lot of hard work into the new Savvy pro forma. If you guys have not gotten this new pro forma yet from your agent or from a Savvy agent, you need to be working with a Savvy agent that's got one because I am so proud of it. I've been trying to figure out for a long time how to put all the numbers together in a way that makes a lot of sense to people, that's not too confusing. But for me, that also especially shows the value add and refi potential in the post refi and pre refi numbers, which this does really, really well. So if you haven't seen that yet, ask your Savvy agent for a pro forma on a property sometime this cost hike season when you're going to buy something, because it's really cool and I'm really proud of it. And it seems like the agents are really excited about it too.
It's
Looks
such
like
a
so far since I released it, like earlier a week ago, it's like 250 pro formas have been done since then, which is so awesome to see. It's like my dreams coming like out into reality. It's
well,
definitely my
everything's
creative outlet.
it's so easy because everything's there. Like you have your estimated like cash flow, you have your estimated investment. You also have estimations on cost segregation, so you get a really good blended rate as an investor to see what you're going to make. I think also two other points, Tyler, to piggyback off like what are some mistakes. I think the first one is that if you are looking to buy a short-term rental that is already an active short-term rental, again, we're not wizards. So a good example is there's a house currently on the market that's making $40,000. Optimized, we're looking at over 90.
Yeah.
uh, the folks that are looking to purchase it don't want to spend the money on any redesign. And I always say to clients, like, there's a reason why this is an underperforming short-term rental. Like, you might have some savings on the fact that it has a pool heater or that it has some turf installed. But again, like, if you go to any interior designer and you ask them, hey, I'm looking to buy 123 Main Street and it just needs like, how much would it cost to do a refresh? Interior designers don't do a refresh. And the reason is it takes the same amount of level and effort for your interior designer, for your setup team, and for your property managers to make that into cash flowing. So if we're expecting to buy a property that has that's currently not doing great, and assuming that we can just do nothing and to be a great property, we can't. And on the flip side of that, we shouldn't be scared of buying existing short-term rentals. Like it really should still fit your buy box of price, amenities, bedroom, bathroom count. Let's say those are the essentials. Even though it's underperforming, that it gives you a great opportunity, just like any other business owner or investor, to come in, improve operations, and decrease expenses with the right execution plan. And that's what savvy agents do. Is we give you guys playbook to take that underperformer that you get a great deal for, sucker punch the sellers, and then turn that around into a great property, assuming that you do spend the money on the amenities. Now, the other thing that I was talking to 𝗀𝗵𝗶𝘆 about the other night is that I actually recommend that every single person, if they're not working with a property manager, and this is Joe's advice that I've now inherited, is that you should hire a revenue manager. And if you need revenue managers, reach out to your realtor through Savvy, or just reach out to our team and we can provide some recommendations. I actually moved my entire portfolio to a revenue manager. You could have all the amenities in the world, but if you are not pricing your property well, because you're either nervous or you don't know what the pacing is, right? You don't know like what the booking windows are. You don't know what the percentiles are. Um, and it's very and you lead your pricing on a very emotional driven strategy, you're not going to make the money. So I have a client that did three properties on 1031 last year. We have identical properties in the same market, and my properties outcompete his properties by almost 45%.
Yeah,
And
it's crazy.
and
There's
it's
so
and
many
it's
layers to what you can do. It's like crazy. When anybody's like, I'm not performing well, I'm like, then go perform well. Like it is a choice. There's so many things you can do. It's not just static. Like it's not just in God's hands, right?
it's a lot of drivers. It's like we need to set it up right. We need to acquire it right. But also like on the operation side, like we need to be realistic. Like either let's invest some money into coaching so I can get coached on how to price it properly. Let me hire a great property manager, which we have so many in our partnerships. But on top of that, you know, you can also offload it to a dedicated revenue management team, and it's really not that expensive. So I think like those are all things that if I had to give advice on, it's like invest in the amenities that you said you were gonna do, buy the right house, not for tax purposes, but because it's just a good investment. Make sure that you're pricing your property correctly and looking at using it based on data. And the last one is if you're buying a existing short-term rental, please invest into it to make sure that it actually can reach its full potential. And on the flip side, don't be scared of buying an existing short-term rental as long as you have an execution plan in place that your savvy agents helped you put together to make sure that you can turn it into a top performer.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree with you. It's crazy the opportunity I think that people have when they work with an agent that just like truly knows short-term rentals in their market. Like all of this knowledge that you have. I don't think people understand like it's not just that we know how to sell houses or that we've sold a few short-term rentals. Like it's all the things that you pay attention to. The airport traffic, where people are coming from, what's getting built, why it's getting built, where tourism dollars are coming from, the difference between all the different areas. Like I do the same thing in my market, and it's like we do this 24/7 all day every day. Like we are going to know more about it than almost anybody else. And so I just like I think that it's so awesome that we get to do this, and it's such a win-win for the clients, because we don't charge anything extra than a normal real estate agent would, right? But they get all this extra value from us, which I think is really, really cool.
It's funny you say that because I have close friends with the property management group out here. They're some of the top property managers, and they sent me a list of homes that a realtor partner of them was going to go take for short-term rentals. One, we met on a strategy call, and they said, "This is amazing. Usually, we have to get brought in by the realtor to do all the short-term rental work, which really should be on the realtor." But they went over the Savvy pro forma, and they're like, "This is great. All you're basically making our job so much easier because now we have that partnership where we know that the client has the right expectations on purchasing." Now, the second thing is when they showed me the list of homes that their realtor partner was going to show, I said, "Yeah, I've been to all of the houses and only two of them work. And unfortunately, we're actually already under contract for two of those. So you might want to have your realtor update the list because our savvy buyers have already purchased those." And they're like, "Well, what about the other ones?" And I said, "I've been to them and here are videos on them. Feel free to share the videos." And I said, "This is why you should be working as a property manager with Savvy because we also help your pipeline. If you are a property manager and an interior designer, any sort of secondary vendor, um, being partnered with a savvy agent as a local referral is only going to boost your business revenue, your pipeline, because we have all the clients there that need to work with those folks, and we're going to make your job a lot easier. So I would also say that if we're looking at that perspective, that it's really important to work with a savvy agent because we'll also go through all of that work ahead of time just to make sure that everything works. Now, like, what's a good tidbit? What I love are properties that have huge gates on the side. For the most part, we are in a situation where if you have all your toys in Arizona, people like to go off-roading, they like to go to the lake, they probably have a huge concrete pad on their side of their house that looks like an RV gate. If you're a short-term rental realtor, you're gonna say, "Oh my God, I can put a huge pickleball court here, but I don't have to spend all the money on the concrete." So you can put a pickleball court up to $5,000 instead of
Yes.
40, and it's easy. Now, what's another example? I have a client that bought a house for 450, and what's really awesome is it was a 3-2 with a pool, but then it had a huge detached garage. We went into that detached garage, and it's about 1,200 square feet. And I said to him, "Why don't we do this? We're going to buy the house for 450. You're going to put 3% down as your primary. Then from there, you're going to renovate the whole thing with your nest egg because he has a nice nest egg for like 75 grand." So he just finished the remodel, and the house is now a 3-2, fully renovated, and the after repair value is about 650. So in the span of like 60 days, his value of the house went up about $200,000. He's now pulling a HELOC, a line of credit, out on the property, and he's actually renovating the garage and turning that into another 2 bed, 2 bath. So it's fantastic because he's going to have a 6 bed, 4 bath short-term rental. He's going to
Hmm.
live there for the first year to meet occupancy rules. He gets a primary home loan. And after he does that, he's going to have an Airbnb that's going to gross over $150,000 a year, and the new value of the house will be 850. So he has a cash flowing investment, and then he pumped almost $400,000 worth of equity in 12 months because we got creative. And I think that's where the value of our shop is, Tyler, is that we're all versed in all sorts of real estate. People always ask like, "Hey, are you guys just short term rental?" I said, "We all do everything. Like we all do flips, we all have multifamily, we all have done long term rentals, we all done value add. The thing is, short term rental is going to give you your highest return on cash flow and the taxes. So why don't we figure out how we can get creative with your financing situation to say, hey, do we need to do a primary that you live in for a year? Maybe do we do a secondary home loan because you can put 10% down. Maybe there's some sort of non-QM financing we can pull together. So I think that's where the creativity of working with our realtors really puts our clients ahead of everybody else that's shopping in the market.
Yeah, totally. You said something funny to me the other day when we were talking, which was like if there's another short-term rental realtor in this market, like I am going to beat them out. Like I am going to be the first person at the first property. Like it's not just like do we know the most, we're the most active in the market, and like we're going to beat you out if you work with another agent, right? Like we're going to be there first, we're going to have the videos, we have the fastest pro forma, we have 50,000 buyers in our database, like we're buying leads from everyone on the planet. So like anytime somebody raises their hand online and says like I'm interested in short-term rentals on like 15 different pieces of software, we get that information, we have our own marketing that goes out, and all of that is helping all of our people. So like if you're not with us, you're definitely against us, and that can be difficult. I know people that have lost out in multiple offer situations, or on houses that they got too late. I've had people that came to me and said I fired my agent because you got to the property first. They didn't even send it to me till it was under contract, and you already had it and you had already done all the work. And we've definitely got clients like that. So
We
I
also have a
love
lot.
that
We
whole
also
thing.
have a lot of we also have a lot of listings that come our way just because everybody knows who we are. So a lot of realtors that can't sell their houses will say, "Hey, is there short-term rental possibilities?" So we have a lot of pocket listings that we can provide that people essentially have access to ahead of time. The other thing too is if you're working with like a regular realtor, what ends up happening is that you have a 30-day transaction period in Arizona. What happens is after they get you through your inspections, your deposit basically goes hard. Like you're locked into the house. That realtor ends up goes and buys a Mercedes, plans a trip to Cancun. Um, they're not working for you anymore. It's on the lender to get it to close. What's great about savvy realtors is we know that once that we're there working for you for 30 days, and then we're also there as a support system after closing. So after the 10 days, what I do is I say it's time to put our project manager hats on, guys. So this Friday, I have a client closing on September 1st. We got through the inspections. I got them an extra $20,000 off the price. I also got them all their closing costs covered. What's great is on Friday, and we don't have to do this, but this is our passion. Then my painter is going to be there, my landscaper is going to be there, my pool guy is going to be there, my muralist is going to be there, and my sports court girl is going to be there. And we're actually going to start project managing the whole place so that when September 1st hits and they close, they're already off the gate. So if you also want to make sure that after closing you're ready, I always say the real work starts once you close because you have 30 days to 60 days, especially if you're on a cost seg time crunch to get to busy season to get it up and running. So we're also there to act as an ancillary project manager during the contract period to help you get involved with the right vendors, start project planning. So even if you are working with somebody that has some short-term rental background, you have to think about after closing how fast is that am I going to get to market? Like we always strive to get there in 30 days because your first mortgage payment's in 60 days. Like a savvy realtor will help make sure that you have revenue coming in the door before your first mortgage payment. My average client that comes to me after they had previously worked with a realtor typically takes 4 months. And why is that? You have kids, you have life, you have a job, you have a vacation, you have each other. Doing a short-term rental without a support system is
Yeah,
crazy.
crazy.
And that's what we
Yeah,
do is we provide you a support system.
yeah. Do you think, would you recommend Phoenix for a first time investor, or is it better suited for someone that's already got experience, or who's best suited to invest in the Phoenix market?
We're open for business for everybody. And I think that's where like half of my clients have never done a short-term rental. And then I'd say the other half are seasoned investors where they're looking to sharpen their tools. So with our first time investors, we're taking you through an entire education process to say, hey, this is where we make money. This is your budget. And then we reverse engineer your budget to say these are the parts of the market that work great for you. Now, if we're looking to sharpen our tools, clients come and say, I need to spend like $2-3 million here. It's like, we can as long as it's the right property. And that's because we need to hit certain revenue targets. So I think that's where Phoenix is a great place where we have options at every single price point. It's really just a matter of like how much education do we need, and it's my job to identify through the discovery process to say like how can I make sure that we're working as peers, and it's my job to teach you how to fish. And maybe you have an issue here or an issue there or a gap here or there. It's my job to help fill that gap with education to ensure that through case studies, references, my own properties, that I can help deliver through my experience a way for you to actually take on the Phoenix market with a lot of confidence.
Awesome. So yeah, I mean, it sounds like it's something that whether you're experienced or not. I mean, I know it personally. I know of investors that are invested in like Scottsdale. Maybe they have one in Phoenix. Maybe they have one in 𝗀𝗵𝗄. But like, I know people that buy multiple properties there, and there must be a reason for that, right? Like, they have seen success and they like it. Also, I just think like if you look at one, this is really the only area like between Phoenix, Scottsdale, Sedona. It's really the only area you can invest in Arizona. Honestly, I think it's really the only area that you can invest in almost on the entire West Coast profitably, right? Like with lower taxes, lower land values to get the tax benefits, to still get the cash flow, to avoid the regulation. You're not going to California, you're not going to Oregon, you're not going to Washington, you're not really going to New Mexico. There's some pockets in Utah that can be really, really good, like Park City and Salt Lake City and down by like Zion and stuff like that. But for the most part, this is by far and large, if you want to be on the West Coast, this is really the only place you should have your eyes on, right?
Agreed, 100%. And I think that's where like part of being an investor, regardless of what you're investing in, like you really need to go through a self-discovery process. And that's what savvy realtors are here to do. We help you go through the self-discovery process to say, hey, does this actually make sense not only from a monetary standpoint, but from a functional standpoint, right? Like what we're doing isn't a stock, right? It's not like we can just buy Apple stock and then sell it tomorrow because like the wind blew a different way. At the end of the day, like if you're on the West Coast, it probably makes sense to like identify Scottsdale as a market because we're so close. Like if something were to happen at your property, you could be there within an hour and a half. You probably need to take 1 day of PTO, not even take any PTO, and or on like on a weekend. I know clients that have invested on the other side of the country on the East Coast, and they're saying we had to take off like 3-4 days of work. We need to figure out our kids' schedules. Like it's just an absolute mess,
A
and
lot.
they also don't enjoy it. They don't go over there, so they say we come to Scottsdale all the time. Like it just makes sense for us to double dip, get some tax write-offs for a place that we like to go. I have a lot of folks that look at like 𝗶𝘁'𝘀. They're looking at like spots in Idaho. I mean, you can buy short-term rentals in a lot of markets like that. The thing is, though, is you always have to think about your cash flow. Like, is it going to stress you out that you are negatively cash flowing? Like, there's just not enough tourism dollars there to justify the investment. So we really are one of those true West Coast markets where you can have your cake and eat it too.
That's awesome. Okay, so if somebody that is watching this has been on the fence about Phoenix, what's something that you would tell them?
I would say that the competition shouldn't scare you. If we look at the data, I could show you within 5 minutes on an introductory call that there's actually a supply demand imbalance where there's a certain part of the market where there actually are not enough short-term rentals, and the revenue will absolutely knock your socks off. Clients always come in saying, "Well, it's so regulated there, it's so scary. It's so saturated there, it's scary." Any sort of market that has low regulation, whether it's the Smokies, whether it's Scottsdale, whether it's the Poconos, you're gonna have so much competition. As long as we chop through the data and I lead you to water, we will find you the right place. There is a supply demand imbalance where there are not enough homes that cash flow, and I can show you exactly what those homes look like and feel like. They're in my
So if
portfolio,
you,
they're in my clients' portfolios.
so if you could point an investor towards like one opportunity right now, what would that be?
There's a house right now at $850,000 in Mesa. It's 8 beds, 4 baths. The revenue on that house will be north of $175,000. The house already has all the turf done. It has a beautiful pool with new pebble tech. It has an outdoor patio space that's finished with exposed wood. Also has a fireplace, an area for a TV, and a finished outdoor kitchen. That property will gross 140 to $150,000 as is. If we optimize it and add a pickleball court, we are looking at $175,000 plus. The property's been sitting on the market for 30 days. It's prime for a price cut. It's an absolute banger of a deal um, for an investor to take over.
That's awesome. Very cool. Okay. I mean, you obviously have your finger on the pulse of the area, right? Like you know which house it's on the market, you know exactly what the deal should look like and how to do it. It sounds like an investor would be really well served by working with you. So, to work with you, how does somebody get in touch with you? What's the best way?
The best way is either to reach out to me via text. My phone number is 623-414-8061. The other way is you can follow my Instagram and shoot me a DM. It would be at @homesby_Holden. On my Instagram page, we come out with content every day during the week. We have tips and tricks. We show you projects that we're working on. We have client success stories. I think it's a really great place for you to get a little bit of taste of Scottsdale. And if you'd like some more information, shoot me a text or DM.
Awesome, man. Hey, thanks for taking the time. I know people are really going to enjoy this and probably watch it for like months to come. We're going to get this out to our email list and everything. Thanks, man. This was awesome. I definitely learned a lot, and I hope that everybody else here did too.
Thank you so much, Tyler. Enjoy New York City.
All right, man. See
Yeah.
y'all. Good to see you. Thanks for coming to hang
Thanks,
out.
everybody. Bye bye.